Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. You're all again very welcome, and thank you for joining us at the business end of our annual global meeting. Yeah. Now, all of us on the board, and indeed Lynn and our staff, we're aware that this is not the most satisfactory way to have a general meeting. But as you know, the force of circumstances in which we live again make it important or make it impossible only for us to have a virtual meeting. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. I am sure you will find plenty of interest in the reports and the slides that you will see in the coming hour. And hopefully we will be in person next year. I certainly would like to see, and then you'll see on the next slide, the numbers of places where you've come from. We've had over 400 of you registered, and you've come from over 60 countries. That indeed, as I said yesterday, makes this truly a global meeting. But I would like to pay a particular welcome, first of all, to 3 affiliates that have just recently joined us. Yeah, we have with us from the Côte d'Ivoire, Aman Hassam. We have with us from Italy, from a new Italian, Laura Ferrara. And we have Suan McPherson and Marwa Al-Kabisi from the United Arab Emirates. You 3 are very welcome to the global family of Montessori, and we look forward very much to meeting you in person in the not too distant future. As usual, I would like to introduce you to the board. I'm not sure that you can read all the names. So looking around the board, starting on the top left and moving to in a clockwise direction, you have Jennifer Davidson, Hank Franken, Christina Harrison, Lynn Lawrence, of course, Jackie Maughan, Yudiko Ukidze, Jennifer Shields, myself, our treasurer Ian Stockdale, and Trish Miller. Before we leave the board slide, I would just like to record, hopefully on behalf of all of you, a note of condolence to Hank Franken on the recent death of his wife, Helen. Helen was always an active participant in our AGMs in Amsterdam, and I'm sure everybody wishes Hank the best under the circumstances. Yep. So let us move on, and now we'll have a look at the items on the agenda. Here are the people on the slide from whom we have received apologies. Won't read them all out, but we will incorporate them all in the minutes of the meeting. Yep. And we now come to the minutes of the annual general meeting, which have been circulated. Let me just pause for a moment. Unfortunately, this technology is a little. I can't see the chat slides. So if you would be so kind as to, when I ask for a proposer as a seconder, just to do so on the chat. Ashley O'Connell and others will watch that, and we will just incorporate your names into the minutes. I'm going to assume we have a proposer and a seconder and move on then once we do that. So can I start then by asking for a proposer and the seconder for the annual the minutes of the 2020 annual general meeting? I am going to assume that they're there, and I will just ask them, are there any matters arising from this minutes? We had asked you when you registered if you had any questions to put to us. We have received no questions, so we're assuming there's no issues. If there are questions at the end of the day, you can always send them to us in the chat, and we will certainly answer them as best we can, either online or get back to you as quickly as possible. Okay. So I assume the minutes can be now adopted. Yes. Can I again have a proposer and a seconder for that, please? I'd like now to turn over the screen to, thank you, Louise Livingstone and Victoria Barris for that. I'd like now to turn over the screen to Ian Stockdale, our treasurer, for the financial report. Yep, Ian, all yours.
Thank you, Philip, and good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon where I am, which is in the UK. So here's the financial report on the accounts for the year 2020. I'm pleased to say that the auditors have given an unqualified report on our accounts. The full accounts are available from the AMI office if you would like to see a copy. The AGM papers include an extract from the accounts of the statement of revenue, and expenditure and of the balance sheet. The statement of revenue and expenditure shows that the surplus for the year was €220,630, which was 205,000 ahead of budget and 184,000 higher than the previous year. The board has designated 160,000 of this surplus to a new archival repository project, which will host the AMI and NAMTA publications, archive, research and collections. This means that €55,000 can be added to unrestricted reserves. The overall surplus mainly resulted from reduced travel and meeting costs and the receipt of retrospective funding from the 2019 ESF Assembly and the Montessori for Aging and Dementia grant. Income was below budget due to the AGM and ESF events not taking place, the deferred training of trainers seminars, and slower than anticipated work on some designated projects. Costs associated with all of these were also lower than budget. Our main source of income continues to be course income, which was 2% higher than in the previous year. The graph shows a steady growth in course income since 2014, with a 92% increase over the past 7 years. This is then reflected in the overall growth of AMI courses around the world and with a corresponding increase in global coverage and range of courses. Designated income increased by €492,000 over the previous year due to the Corner of Hope, Blended Learning, Montessori, Dementia and Aging and Strategic Communications funded projects. Our balance sheet shows a very healthy position with healthy cash balance of €3.1 million, although please be aware that a large part of this relates to cash received in advance for funded projects and also to course accreditation fees received in advance. Our undesignated or free reserves totaled €2.4 million at the year end, but of this 1.4 million is the fixed assets of the buildings in Amsterdam. The board has agreed that AMI should maintain sufficient reserves to cover a minimum of 6 months of expenditure, and the steady growth in reserves over the past few years means that we can now meet this target. It's essential that organisations maintain sufficient reserves in order that they can cope with any short drops in income, as costs tend to be relatively fixed and therefore difficult to adjust quickly. This is particularly relevant for 2021, when so many of our training centres have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, which may have implications for AMI's course fee income. The strong financial performance in recent years has enabled AMI to have accumulated reserves to help us through any future drop in income which may result from the continuing pandemic. Thank you for your attention, and if there are any questions, please put them in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. And again, thank you. I particularly want to say thank you to Cherry. As Ian said, we have a clean audit report. I was going to say again, but I think in Cherry's case, I should say as usual, because it has been the case for all of you who are involved with small NGOs or with any organization, you'll know the importance of getting a clean audit report. So it's very, very important for our reputation. And I think, as you can see in that report, our reputation, if we measure it by the new partnerships that have grown and the cash that's come in for designated projects that we've got, then our reputation is quite strong and very good. So I would now ask, please, for a proposal to adopt the annual accounts for AMI. And I'm sure that in a moment they're going to pop up on my WhatsApp group. So in the meantime, I will move on to the next, important item, I think. The item is titled Call for the New AMI President. Now, as you know, the term limits are quite clear within our organization. So AMI has begun a search for the new president who should take up their office in April 2022, when my term ends. The board have very recently approved a profile for the position, and this we will post on the AMI website this coming week. After that, it will be more widely circulated. Yeah. The profile is very clear, and it sets out the profile of the individual, the responsibilities that the president takes on, and the characteristics of the individual that we would like to see as an incoming president. Yep. It particularly notes one, that the person should recognize and adhere to the importance of children's rights, which I think we heard a lot about yesterday, but also be convinced of the pivotal role that Montessori education must play in enhancing the lives of children and improving the world in which we live. The board agreed to a selection committee, which Ian Stockdale will chair with 3 other board members, and they will identify and shortlist and interview and prepare a shortlist for a full board interview sometime later. Lynn will also be consulted on that because, as I can guarantee you, the relationship between the executive director and the president is a very important one in AMI. So her voice is important in this issue. And while I am not formally part of that selection process, I will, of course, be in the board when it does interview the final candidates. The reason I'm stepping out of that with the agreement of Ian and Lynn is so that I can be available to talk to people who are interested in the job and give them an insight into what is involved, the joy, the fun. Yeah, the joy and the fun of being the president of AMI. And that's something I would like to get across to as many people as possible. It is, as you probably know, it is well, at least you maybe not know, but I find it an exciting and rewarding position in a dynamic and growing organization. And I am hopeful that we will attract a range of good candidates for this. So please feel free to use the profile that will go up on the website. And if you identify people who match that profile and you want to approach them to see, are they interested and they want to speak to me or indeed perhaps to Lynn about what's involved in the job, absolutely put them in contact with us. We do want to search wide and deep to make sure that the next president of AMI is the person the organization deserves. We hope to finish all of this process within about 5 or 6 months from now, hopefully, that we would be able to have the person named, identified, and of course brought onto the board in time for them to meet a whole lot of people and be involved in a few board meetings before they formally take on their position in April 2022 at this meeting, which the board, would approve a new board if we have new board members, and the board would then select the person as president. So I hope that's all clear. And we leave it at that until this time next year. So thank you all very much for all your support, but no, it's too early to say that sort of stuff. I'll get around to saying that next year. I'd like now to hand over the floor to Lynn. We're going to deal with item 7 and item 8, which is basically the annual report which needs to be approved, but also incorporating in that our updates from the executive director of the work that the organization has been doing. So, Lynn.
Thank you so much, Philip. And of course, I've been lucky enough to work alongside 2 extraordinary presidents, Andre Roquefort and Philip O'Brien. So for me, the next appointment will also be very interesting and important for the health and future of AMI. I do hope that you've all had an opportunity to look through our annual report. And what I'd like to do now is take you through some of the highlights of the past year, but at the same time, give you some updates and forward projections for the years ahead. So essentially, I'm going to cover items 7 and 8 in the same moment. Please forgive me if I've missed out something that to all of you seems terribly important and hasn't been mentioned. It's difficult to bring everything down into a short period of time. But do know that AMI is very, very busy with the work that we hope we do on your behalf all the way through the year. And we are simply delighted at the amount of growth in the work and the spread of Montessori that has come about even over the last year in this time of pandemic. We're very fortunate, as you know, to be able to call upon many experts and volunteer members of the AMI community. And we really rely upon them to help us preserve the legacy of Maria Montessori's vision, but also continue to innovate and increase the impact and reach of Montessori principles and practice in all parts of the globe, and to amplify the efforts that we all share to reach more members of our human global family. AMI staff mostly, but not only, are based here in Amsterdam and feel very blessed to be working from the house of Maria Montessori alongside all of you. We appreciate your partnership and support as individuals, communities, and organizations who share our vision and commitment for social reform through the sharing of Montessori's vision with others and the creation of environments that support healthy human development. We especially appreciate all of you during this year of multiple challenges in which we have somehow strengthened our connections, combined our resilience, become even more flexible, and shared solidarity, resolving together to stand up for the human rights and the rights of children to live in a more just and more equitable world. There have actually been some advantages to COVID, and one of these is that we have connected more regularly and we have shared more often our challenges and our successes. We're very lucky to be able to draw upon a global volunteer expertise for our various committees, and one of the main committees of AMI is the Scientific Pedagogy Group, the SPG as we call them. This committee is chaired by AMI Director of Pedagogy, Ginny Sackett, who has now relocated back to Portland and is no longer with us as she was these last 3 years in Amsterdam. We miss her, but again, with the advantages of technology and her ability to get up early in the morning, we're still in close contact, and Ginny is still the Director of Pedagogy for us. Thank you, Ginny, for continuing this work. Thank you to the rest of the committee also for all their work. As always, we find that we have to say goodbye sometimes to some of our committee members when their terms of office are over, and we would really like to thank Carol Hicks for her 8 years of tremendous service on this committee. And just to say to you all that Carol has undertaken a number of tasks on behalf of the pedagogy group, which she will be continuing even though her face does not appear in the group as a formal member. She will be carrying on her work. And we'd also then like to welcome to our committee 2 new members, Anahita Gandhi from India and Nia Seal from the USA. The committee this year has been engaged in much work during the COVID pandemic to address the needs of the training community and students, whilst also continuing to revise and review all our courses, the delivery modes of those courses, and investigate new offerings. Regular bi-monthly check-ins have taken place with all trainers at all levels of training throughout this period, as well as those trainers who are in training. In addition to all of these activities, AMI is also fortunate to have memorandum of understandings with a number of universities. The University of Vic in Spain, with whom we currently collaborate, is about to appoint a chair of Montessori studies and to amplify their research into Montessori education. The University of Hartford's Center for Montessori Studies works closely with AMI, and we have a new emerging potential course connection now with the University of Virginia through the connection with Angeline Lillard. And there are other universities besides who connect to us and with the SPG and collaborate with us. So we are extremely busy and moving very fast in developing a number of different course options and different types of course delivery. The SPG has several newly formed subcommittees that focus on specific levels of expertise and new growth here at AMI. And I wish to thank the Montessori for Dementia and Aging Committee for all their work in the past and now this year as part of this new subcommittee. There is much work ahead for this committee in growing the number of trainers globally at this level, in developing and spreading this knowledge more widely to many more communities. Our elders, or elderhood, is an age that deserves immense respect. And as you and I know, we all know that there is a great amount of knowledge needing to be shared and their human rights needing to be respected. We are also delighted to say that in this respect, we have recently begun a project with Harvard University, T.H. Chan School of Health, and the Culinary Institute of America and AMI, entitled Minding Our Future, Healthy Aging, Food and Lifestyle. We're also collaborating with the Y2 Foundation and the Taipei Medical University College of Nursing, who want to find out more about our approach, want to exchange knowledge, and to embed the knowledge of Montessori into their work with nursing and to continue research in this area. So there's a great deal of activity now growing as we develop our work here at AMI in this particular arena. Another newly created subcommittee is the 12 to 18 adolescent, we sometimes call it, although as you can see, none of us are adolescents in that picture, subcommittee. This committee is now working towards increasing the trainer workforce and delivering 3 new offerings at this level. There are workshops, orientations, and diploma courses around the world. To arrive at this point, we have to acknowledge the work of the executive study team, who represented pedagogues and practitioners who'd been involved in the work for many years. This group worked tirelessly to get us to this point. WEND Collaborative and Great Work are also thanked for supporting the 2-year project that gave rise to think tanks, deep dives, colloquia, and much collaboration to enable the launch of this new level of training. In parallel with this work, AMI signed an MOU with the Dutch Montessori Schools Association here in the Netherlands, and work has been ongoing with regard to developing a competencies model of training for the Dutch schools, which are all government funded. Another long-standing committee of AMI is the training group. At the present time, they support and encourage 157 trainers in training around the world. They do this through seminars, through the reading of the trainees' papers, through mentoring them, and through defining and redefining the training of trainers process. That gives you just some insight into the amount of work that they do on a regular basis. The Training of Trainers program is rigorous, but the rewards are great. Our trainers are known globally for their depth of knowledge and their commitment to Montessori's vision. And so we are very grateful to those of you who choose to work in this space. Thanks are also due, of course, to the TG members, their hard work, and to Judy Orion, who chairs this committee and is now working full-time at AMI, having retired from training. Regrettably, this year we'll be saying goodbye to Pamela Nunn. Pam, thank you so much for all your hard work and your balanced and steady view that you bring to the work of the committee. And we are welcoming permanently onto the committee Tessie Shetnan, who joined last year to observe, and Anne Velasco, who is the newest member of this awesome team. All committee members, by the way, have a year of observation and participation before actually agreeing to join permanently, because there is so much work that is attached to this committee, and we are very grateful to them. Another committee of AMI is our Global Research Group. This is chaired by Trish Miller, and they have seen the establishment of a new website and community of practice for researchers. Exciting opportunities are also coming up for us with our new MOU with the University of Vic in Spain, and also new opportunities opening up with other universities around the world. As you know, our strategic plan centers around 3 pillars: legacy, the study of the full human development of the full development of the human being; Montessori education, accessible to all; and Montessori education for social change. This year, we must remember those who are no longer with us, and I would like to make special mention of 5. Grazia Honeger Fresco passed away at the age of 91. She was a specialist in the early years of human development and one of the last living students of Maria Montessori. She imparted her knowledge freely through publications and lectures, and in 2008, she received an award from UNICEF Italia on the part of children. Her family have launched a website of her work and writing so that the public may continue to have access to her wisdom. Estella Palmieri worked and belonged to the first cohort of AMI trainers who began this work when Mario Montessori moved from simply himself and his mother working with groups of people to actually naming people to continue the work. Estella took over the work in Santa Monica, Los Angeles, from Claude Claremont, and ran training centers there and courses around the world. Jane Arellano received her AMI training from Cato Hanrath in Mexico City. She ran many Montessori courses and trained all over the world, and we will miss her greatly from our current cohort of trainers. Sarah Concas listened in 1949 to the lectures that Maria Montessori gave at the University of Foreigners in Perugia. And at that point, she was completely engaged in this new type of thinking and began then to study it. And ultimately, she became one of the trainers supporting Maria Antoinette Paolini. She then helped to establish for AMI the Montessori Training Association. She worked alongside the Opera Nazionale in Italy also. And today, the legacy that she leaves behind is a thriving Montessori community in Perugia. The Perugia there is now, the district is calling itself the Montessori district, and we are working very closely with them as they serve to develop the training center, the universities, the schools, and the whole of the city to support their legacy to Maria Montessori and the work that they can do. We are looking forward to working with them and to developing closer ties as they grow their Montessori commitment. Lou Haynes is the last person on this picture list, and you will know that Lou was married to Annette Haynes, who passed away in 2017. Lou remained engaged so that he was sure that Dr. Haynes' legacy would continue. He was intimately involved in the design and construction process of the now St. Louis Training Center. He was a true partner to her and a great friend to all of us, and he will be missed. This year, as you know, was a celebration of Montessori 150, which we are continuing until August 31 of this year. The Montessori tulip, which you see here, so beautiful, is going to be still available in this coming year. For those of you that would like to plant a Montessori tulip, please visit the website if you'd like to start to organize some orders for that. I must say I missed out this year myself, so I'm going to be one of the first in line to actually get some of those very beautiful tulips on order. We also commissioned a beautiful book about tulips to go with it. What have we been doing while COVID has been on? Well, we've been restoring some of Maria Montessori's furniture in her study, and we have been restoring some of the portraits that we have of her. The Montessori Pearson Publishing Company also contributed to this work and have restored Maria Montessori's chair that sits in front of her desk in her study and the cushion. So we're very grateful to them too. While I'm talking of the Montessori Pearson Publishing Company, I must just say, Alexander, happy birthday for this week. We know that you always have your birthday in the days leading up to or during the AGM. Thank you for all your help and work over these multiple years. Many events still continue around the Montessori 150. There were songs that were held. There were all sorts of events that took place. My Hand in Your Hand was sung by many groups of children and adults all around the world. And the one I've noticed latest is one by the Wilson Montessori School in Houston, where their children decided not to sing My Hand in Your Hand, but to sign it. So if you're interested in that, check out YouTube or go to our website. As you know, we've got a very different communication strategy operating now, and for Montessori's actual birthday, we held a digital marathon releasing things throughout the day. Original footage of Maria Montessori being interviewed was reached on that day by 87,000 people approximately. The Montessori 150 birthday movie reached around 176,000 people. Our AMI birthday message reached around 98,000 people, and our social media content continued in this year to amplify our presence and yours on social media. You will see that we have enhanced our presence on all social media platforms. In collaboration with Bright Vibes, short films were made, 3 of them in fact, the first of which was about Montessori's inspirational life, and that reached 1.8 million people. We then followed this with a beautiful video of how Montessori approach can improve the lives of people living with dementia. And that was also reached by just under 1 million people. And our latest newly released video, How Montessori Prepares Children for a Life of Caring, has already reached 747,000. Many of you will also have seen the 2 short videos made to highlight Montessori education and how it's available and useful for all children, as is Montessori training, which we produced in collaboration with the Montessori Training Center Minnesota and the BBC. All of these films were made with generous support from our friends and our thought partners and our supporters. Thank you so much, all of you, for helping us to provide the Montessori community with these useful and insightful videos. Just to show our increasing our presence in the online community. In 18 months, we've almost doubled our presence on Facebook up to 47,000. And you can see Instagram has grown exponentially from 1,000 18 months ago to 14,000 now. LinkedIn from 3,000 to 8,000, and Twitter from 9,000 to 10,200. I know everyone has their favorite social media channel. Mine personally is Instagram, so I'm glad to be one of the people who've helped grow that particular sector. You'll also be aware that AMI has set up a Montessori digital portal for people to come and to download for free many digital classified cards and other types of paper materials for using in schools or in homes. And certainly during the pandemic, we saw a huge increase in the numbers of people downloading all of the different resources that we have put on the site. At the moment, there are 792 different sets of classified cards, and they are present in 20 different languages. 16,000 cards have been downloaded in the last year by people working mostly from home or teachers needing to help children function in their homes during COVID. We would also like to say that we are concentrating very much on trying to get these cards and also other materials into mother tongue. And so at the moment, the 20 languages that we have available are due to the fact that people see that they can download a template, they can translate it into their own language and upload it. And I would like to encourage as many of you as possible to visit the site, take the cards that you would think are relevant to you and your culture, and to help us to augment the number of languages available. AMI is committed to mother tongue and to dialects and to new languages being available so that we can reach more children. The Aid to Light website is also now translated into 13 different languages. And since we're still in the year of Montessori 150, I'd like to make a 150 challenge. I wonder how many more languages we can have on this site, which is so useful to parents in the early days of parenthood. Please, if you think that you can add to our now 13 languages, Danish and Czech being the latest languages to be added, we would encourage you to ask for the template, and then we will upload it so that we can reach more children. Publications this year. Well, as members, for those of you that are members, you will have received 2 publications from us. First of all, the treasure article, which we always try and release throughout the year, to enable each year you to have something from our archives that hasn't been published before. And this year, we found a beautiful piece on Montessori's view of history, very relevant for all of the situations that we found ourselves and the challenges we found ourselves in this year. You also will have received the 320-page journal, Passages to Montessori Adulthood. I'm still reading mine, and so I hope that those of you that received it will also feel that it was worth having and using to dip into as a huge resource for thinking and what's going on both in the past, archivally, and currently being written and explored. 3 new publications came out, jewels in their own way. 2 from the Montessori Pearson Publishing Company. Maria Montessori writes to her grandchildren, whom you heard Carolina speak about yesterday, and the Montessori Approach to Music, edited today also, and Sarah Werner Andrews, who was the editor, will be talking on that later today if you're interested. AMI itself brought out a beautiful publication on the TULIP. It's geared to cover interest from children from 18 months up to 18 and goes alongside the tulip bulbs that we named in Montessori's honor. As ever, the Montessori Pearson Publishing Company continues to publish in multiple different languages, as many translations as they can manage, and we thank you so much for this work. Having the opportunity to read Montessori in your original mother tongue is something that is not to be missed. And for those of us that don't read Italian or find English isn't our first language, we really think that these different aspects of access to Montessori's own thinking are invaluable. Thank you so much, Alexander and the Montessori Pearson Publishing Company. Now, you heard in Ian's presentation that we are launching a really what we think is a momentous project as part of our legacy. We will hope to establish a digital archive, an open repository, a knowledge hub really, where people will be able to come in and look at the framework of thinking that will represent the range of voices of Maria Montessori, the intricacy of her thinking, the webs of meaning and the perspectives of the worldview that she developed. A place where anyone can enter and research the great ideas of the Montessori approach, a knowledge portal to publications, archives, collections belonging to AMI, NAMTA, and to others in all parts of the world. This is a huge undertaking for us, but we believe it's incredibly important if Montessori's thinking, work, and nuanced application in today's world is to be investigated and understood by others beyond ourselves. Access, of course, for ourselves is one thing, but access to others who are interested is also very important. We anticipate 4 phases to this work. The first phase being the infrastructure and technical build. The second phase being a specific look at the adolescent and the knowledge that is to do with that. The third phase being to look at the first and second planes under the same umbrella, and the fourth phase being to look at the archives, the collections, and the digital artifacts that are available. As you can see, we think it's important, and so €160 has been set aside from our surplus this year to start this project off. We will, however, still be seeking funding to enable us to build and sustain this incredibly important endeavour. And we do know that we have the help of David Kahn and Mary Bainline to begin to map the knowledge structure, and particularly to look at the adolescent. So watch this space, but also if you're inclined to help us, please let us know. Moving into our capacity pillar, you will see that our training centres now number 75, and they are based in 33 countries, but they reach many other countries besides, because many of them operate satellite training. And of course, this year with the online options, many more people from around the world have been able to access our shorter courses. AMI trainers, we had 13 new AMI trainers this year, 5 new auxiliaries across the 0 to 18 groups, making our total 161 trainers globally. Our Montessori Core Principles course was actually completed in terms of its pilot, and we had 224 students enrolled and trainers. We ran 2 pilot programs for the general public and 1 for trainers, and of the 2 public courses, we were very happy to see that 32% of US public school teachers took them. Now, one of the reasons for offering Montessori Core Principles is to enable people to understand the basic overview of Montessori's key ideas, great ideas, across the different age levels, 0 to 18 and elderhood. And so we're now able, having piloted and offered this course to our trainers, to offer this much more widely around the world, and we hope many of you will be interested enough to tell people about it. Our blended 3 to 6 project is now completed, and final guidelines for the blended 3 to 6 courses are on their way. In the meantime, 2 teams are being set up to design the blended learning programs at 0 to 3 and 6 to 12 levels. Now, in spite of the fact that we've had to go online in a blended format during COVID, AMI is looking at the best practice kind of way of delivering this, and so we will then have the guidelines, and so you will see very shortly that AMI courses will be delivered in person and blended, both different options being available for people to take up, and hopefully providing greater accessibility. Now, our Montessori for Dementia and Aging courses have also been going along, and so we ran 20 courses. We have 5 now MDA trainers, 599 participants, and 46 certified graduates. Now, the reason that there weren't so many graduates this year is simply because many of the residential homes have been closed and no one has been able to go into it, so they have been unable to complete their their actual certification. So we're waiting now for the pandemic to ease and people to be able to continue. Our AMI administrators courses also, we have 7 certified trainers this year and 147 certificates awarded, and we're hoping to see growth in that area as of next year. Outreach being our third pillar. Now, many of you are by now familiar with our initiative to bring quality Montessori education to at-risk populations. This initiative began, as you know, in an internally displaced people's camp, where people there had lost their homes, been thrown out of their places of land and where they had grown up and where their ancestors had been born, and were facing a very uncertain future. Well, it's 10 years, if you can believe it, since the Corner of Hope began, and we are celebrating it. If you go to cornerofhope-esf.org, we are showing you the timeline, we're explaining what we did, and you will hear the voices of the people that were involved in doing it as we go. And that IDP camp, the camp that we were first in, and many of you will remember the tented city and the tented school, now looks like this. This year, with COVID closing down the school, we took the opportunity to actually build new roofs. As you can see, Milka and one of the past students there on the top, looking out at what is now no longer a camp, but of course, a village. And the work that went on and goes on today is inspirational in Corner of Hope. As you know, there were 2 offshoots from there, Corner of Hope, and then a new place called Kasima. And then the work that was done there was inspiring to the peoples in Samburu. And working with the Sarara Foundation, we have helped establish 3 sites for the pastoralists in Samburu, and here is just one of them. 8 teachers from the local community have been trained and are in training, and early talks are there now about establishing an elementary training. Around 200 children are served daily in this area. I think I also ought to say that during the 10 years of Corner of Hope, 80 teachers have been trained from that particular displaced community, and 20 teachers from Kenya were also trained at the elementary level. So Corner of Hope's legacy is immense in this respect. Now, having seen that we could do things in an IDP camp and the effects of the growth of that thinking and the community actually embracing it, and then it working in Samburu, our next place of call has been East Pokot. And here you see Gladys. Gladys was trained Montessori, and she's from the region, and she herself is actually helping us to spearhead a new initiative in East Pokot, northern Kenya, which is an even more complex region for pastoralists, with very little infrastructure for schools and very few teachers. Here then, thanks to your individual donations and the work of the Montessori Global Growth Fund, are the first 3 members of that community beginning to get their training, and another 3 due to start before the end of the year. And inspired by the work in Kenya, Mother Earth Uganda began their work also to train teachers coming over to Kenya and returning to Uganda to begin to set up a community there in the region. Marcelina Oti initiated the establishment of Mother Earth Montessori in Ngulu. 4 trainees started their Montessori training in Kenya, and with a lot of perseverance and creativity, Mother Earth Montessori as a community are going to build a high quality Montessori in northern Uganda. And this is an area where the need for quality education is high, creating more opportunities for children and a step towards recovery from what was more war-induced trauma in that region. Branching out into other parts of East Africa, we see Tanzania is right now in collaboration with the Arthur Vasa Foundation and AMI, having 50 students complete their fully funded international 3 to 6 diplomas. A new 3 to 6 course is currently being planned for them, as well as an elementary course in which these students will be able to gain international AMI training, which is funded for them. As a result of the strengthened East Africa work, new opportunities are being explored in Ethiopia, and we are currently planning a trip to Ethiopia, again at the support of Arthur Vasa Foundation, to build the network that we already know exists there and to see how we can help and what can be done to strengthen Montessori in this region. We're also hoping to work alongside another foundation in Norway to realise this work. Our partners, the Peter Hesse Foundation, have also continued their work during the global pandemic. And we see that in Senegal, new schools are being set up and here you see Carol Guy James working and visiting a newly created school there in Senegal. And work has also continued in the very, very difficult circumstances that currently exist in Haiti. Thank you to them for this work. Yesterday, you heard that our ESF outreach department also has evolved something called community-rooted education, what we call CORE. This work evolved, as you know, from the ESF work in Hyderabad through Helen Mohan Elias and Uma Ramani. Yesterday, you saw them implement that ESF CORE program, and what an amazing difference it made to the children and the communities in which it has taken root. More children are attending those government-funded Anganwadis, more teachers and the community are taking care of it, and they consider it a treasure in their own communities. Our next seed from here is actually planted in Cape Town, South Africa, and the launch of the very first community-rooted education course based in the township of Kayamande, Stellenbosch, began actually this last week. In fact, this week. Community-rooted education really makes sure that we start with the dreams and the challenges of the people in the region and the area, and then we integrate a program to help them understand the basics that they need to do to implement some of the fundamental processes and approaches of Montessori. Here you see their dreams and their first meeting, in fact, which took place, and then we curate the course that we offer them, which is not a full international course, but is just giving them seeds of human relationship, simple activities to do with children, and a different way of thinking about how these children grow and develop. Here are two of the participants' current informal early years offerings, and all the other 30 people joining are also involved in something similar. It's an inspiring and impactful journey for everyone. And if you're interested with that, please contact us through our ESF website to find out more about how you might be able to implement a community-rooted approach in areas that need this kind of support. We've also been online, sharing as much as we possibly can, facilitating conversations through our AMI talks, having Erica Moretti talk about Montessori's foundations and early influences for peace, and Sylvia Dubovoy and Amma van Danzig talking inspiringly about human and women's rights and child rights on International Women's Day. Voices of ESF is going to be a new series of talks we give over the next 12 months, where we're going to be hosting people around the theme of child, community and cosmos, from independence to interdependence. So we're hoping to then broadcast the social mission of Montessori and those that are working towards that. AMI, as you know, is in partnership with UNESCO and a member of the United Nations, and we collaborated together with 7 other NGOs during the COVID pandemic to produce this amazing report on how we've responded to the initiative, how we've supported those communities that are in remote and rural areas, and alongside others. This report can be found. Again, visit our website if you'd like to see it. We also participated in Geneva Peace Week and have several other ongoing collaborations in support of the SDGs and UNESCO. Thank you to Victoria Barras, Evelyn Greenberg and Sharon Lickerman for helping us with this. Montessori Sports has grown, but it had to go online just for this COVID period of time. And at this point, together with Montessori Sports, we are building a fund to enable children in underserved communities access the Montessori approach through sport. Thank you to them for this work. They reached 400 students from 51 countries. Our progress with our Montessori architecture project is coming almost to a conclusion now. There will very shortly be an online digital resource free for anyone to come to, looking at the 28 Montessori patterns that we've identified, looking at some examples of those patterns, and showing people ways in which they can be achieved, both through simple indigenous materials and or more complex buildings. So the patterns are good for all. Here are some examples of the schools that we visited, and a book will later be published, hopefully this year, to commemorate all the work. Here you can see now 2 schools in Tanzania being built by Tanzanian architects in different indigenous materials following those 28 patterns. This is the Simba Vision campus in the Masai and Meru region of Tanzania, and it will be there to serve, again, this particular population which is underserved. AMI's global network of affiliates is now swelled, as you heard this morning from Philip, from 42 to 45. And we welcome our new affiliates. Welcome affiliate Montessori Italia. Welcome Laura Wilman Ferrara. Welcome the Association Maria Montessori de Côte d'Ivoire. We're so happy to see you. Welcome Board Director Anam Hassam. Welcome the United Emirates Montessori Association. Welcome Marwa Al-Kabisi and Suan McPherson. You are so welcome. We're looking forward to working with both and to expanding our footprint and the service we can offer in those countries. This year, our affiliate societies, all 45 of them, have been incredibly busy serving their communities, and all of them have done so with amazing insights. We want to just say thank you in the US to Alan Priest for being the interim executive director of AMI USA. You stepped in, Alan, and provided a great bridge for the affiliative director, Dr. Aizesa Beta, who is now one of our speakers today and who is the new executive director. Welcome Sarah Cummins, the new chair of the Montessori Society UK. Welcome Francesca Kipsoy, who will take over from Hilary Correa to lead Montessori for Kenya. Hilary becomes the chair of Montessori for Kenya now. Anne Laws stepped down from the Canadian affiliate and is now replaced by Brianne Kelsey. Welcome, Brianne. Delphine Martini replaces Anoush Hovnainen in France. And our German umbrella affiliated organization has changed its name from MDD to the Bundesverband, which will go into effect this month. Portugal has a new board and a new strategic plan, and Sofia Ramirez joins them and her fellow colleagues as the outreach coordinator. Welcome to you all. Now I'm going to quickly slide through all of the different things that our communities have been doing over this period of time. We've got new quality assurance programs. We've got governments accepting Montessori programs. We've got new initiatives that reach out into our communities. We've got online presence and so forth. And most of all, I'd like now to also thank all of you working for the affiliates. We are so grateful to you. It is your work alongside those of the trainers and the training centers that make AMI into the organization that it is. We are really grateful to you. This week, we were very happy to sign a new framework of cooperation between the Office of Basic Education Commission, the Ministry of Education, Thailand. Representing the government was Dr. Amporn Pinasa, Secretary General of the Office for Basic Education, the Education Department, and the Government of Thailand. There too was Dr. Benjla Gnampa, Senior Specialist to OBEC, and Dr. Kanchli Punyain, Educator at OBEC. Also present was the President of the Montessori Association of Thailand, Kanika Butt. There we are, signing the agreement, and we really are grateful to the Thai government because they are absolutely committed to ensuring that the children in their schools across Thailand experience a Montessori education. I think they are leading in their field, and we are really grateful to them for this vote of confidence in what Montessori education can bring to their children. It's fitting that our next Congress is now scheduled, 2022, for Thailand. It's called Education for a New World. And Thailand and OBEC not only lead the way in Montessori implementation in the public sector, but they also are supporting the development and growth of Montessori in the ASEAN region and beyond. Thank you so much for that. Perhaps we can all meet together in Bangkok, Thailand in 2022. That would be just great for us all. Lastly, I'd like to thank our material sponsors today, Ninhaus materials, and also Argoworld and the Montessori Pearson Publishing Company. Thank you to the Montessori Global Growth Fund. And now, Philip, I would like to pass back over to you, please.
Well done. I did promise you all that there was going to be lots of interesting words. So Lynn, thank you extraordinarily much for that tour of the world, emphasizing the growth that we have seen and the work we're doing with so many disadvantaged communities, as well as all the other mainstream stuff we've done. So let me come back to that. I do, however, require a proposer and a seconder for the formal adoption of the annual report, which you've all read, of course, so it should be easy to say yes to. Yeah. So once again, Aisling, are you okay? We'll take those names and pass them on to me. Yeah. I want to now move on to the last two items on the agenda. Any other business? If there is no any other business and nothing was raised with us, I think we will pass on that. Except I want to say two things. First of all, I want to say I think an enormous amount of thanks is due to Lynn and the staff at AMI for the work that they're doing. Now, AMI is not just the office in Amsterdam or wherever the staff are. AMI is the collective of trainers, training groups, training centres, affiliates, and indeed schools and individuals who all come together behind the AMI banner. But particularly out of all of those, I do think it is appropriate at this time of the year that we do say, thanks, Lynn. Thank you, your staff, not just for doing something that you had to do for the first time, which is put this online in its fullness of good. But I think as we have heard over the last few hours or so, that the quality of the reports that we've seen and the healthy state of the organization, not just financially, but reputationally, speaks loudly to the efforts that junior staff put together, as well as to the work that all the others associated with AMI do. So for all of you, but Lynn and your group particularly, for all of us, well done.
Thank you.
Now, the very last slide of the meeting shows us what is the date and time of the next meeting. And while I do hope to, like Lynn, that we all meet in Thailand, I hope we all meet in Amsterdam on the 8th and 9th and 10th of April in 2022. And with that, I will bring this meeting to a close. Again, thank you for bearing with us. I hope I will get back into the chat room now and see all sorts of weird and wonderful comments. And hopefully this time next year, we will be able to do something much more in person, or at least in a blended way, which will have some of us together and some of us online, ensuring that we have as much access as possible to the wealth of information and the enjoyment of collaboration that we see over these 2 days. So, cheerio for now, and we move on to the next session. So, thank you all. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much.